Welcome, football fans. Pats Nation, 12s, and all of my jabronis. It's Mitch here, live to predict what's gonna happen in Super Bowl 60. Welcome, ladies, gentlemen. It's Mitch. This is the Bottom Line View. This is going to be a deep dive into Super Bowl 60. I'm talking about the Patriots offense and Drake May taking on the dark side Seattle defense. I will discuss the Patriots' dominant playoff defense defending Sam Darnold. I will break down the numbers, the matchups, and in my opinion, the elements of this game that will decide Super Bowl 60. If you're ready for this electrifying, unique, and honestly, probably the best preview you will watch on Super Bowl 60. Anywhere on the internet. Gronk, spike the like button, and don't be a jabroni. Subscribe to the Bottom Line View if you haven't already. This is a even look, not a biased look. I know I'm wearing my Patriot gear. I know I'm a Pats fan, and I know all you haters are in the chat saying Mitch is going to pick the Patriots. Whether I pick the Patriots or not, I will keep this right down the middle in terms of my analysis on how the Patriots and the Seahawks can win this game, the matchups they should exploit, and how I think each team lines up on both sides of the football. Welcome to everybody that is live. Let me know how you're doing. Let me know how you're feeling. We got Sing in the chat. Big Al in the chat. Yabba Dabba in the chat. Super Mario in the chat. Jordan says, let's go, Mr. Milani. We got Let's Go Money Mitch in the chat. Shout out to you guys. Thank you for joining. And look at that. We already have one absolute jabroni who has disliked the video. Because of that, guys, we need 10 times more the likes. I see you watching me right now live. You haven't already liked the video. You better like the video, jabroni, or I'll get Big Al to knock on your door. And you don't want that to happen. They don't call him Big Al for no reason, okay? What's up, Luke? What's up, Danielle? How you doing? We're ready to go. We're ready to go. No graphics. I don't need any graphics. You think I need graphics? I don't need video. I don't need nothing. No pictures. Just me. Okay? Let's go. The Patriots. The Seahawks. Narrative of this game is as follows. The New England Patriots are one of the worst teams to ever step foot into a Super Bowl. They don't belong in the Super Bowl. They don't belong in San Francisco or Santa Clara. Because they face the easiest schedule in football. Because they played Jared Stidham. They played CJ Stroud when he absolutely pooped his pants. They played the Chargers offensive line. Who have the Patriots played in order to say that they belong in the Super Bowl? That is the narrative. That the Patriots do not belong on the same field. The same stadium as the Seattle Seahawks. Meanwhile, everybody is pumping up the Seahawks. Seahawks fans, I have never seen in all of my years, and I have plenty of experience. You may know this. plenty of experience rooting for my own team or my favorite player in a Super Bowl. I have plenty of experience. And I have never, ever seen a team more confident than the 12s, than the Seahawks fans. And I'm not saying, Seahawks fans, you can't be confident. I'm not saying that, bro. But no wonder you're confident. Because everybody, NFL Network, ESPN, the Joe Blow down the street, even my own mother, my mom, Leanne, she said today, well, you know, the Patriots didn't look good in the last game. And the Seahawks, they look incredible this season. Even my own mom says that the Seahawks are far better than the Patriots. My own mother. Damn it. Everybody. 12s, media, my own family doubts the Patriots. Everybody. And so everybody believes this should be a blowout. That the Patriots will get knocked right out of the stadium. They shouldn't even show up. That's the narrative. That's the narrative. The spread is 4.5. The total is 45.5. These are two excellent defenses. These are two top 10 offenses. Let's look at the tail of the tape. Jermari says that Eamon Worry might be injured. Haven't seen anything about that, but I will research that before I get into the defense, obviously. I haven't seen anything about that, but I will look. The tail of the tape. The Seattle Seahawks, second this year in wins. The Patriots, first. The Seahawks, first in point differential per game, 12 points per game. Patriots, second, 9.9 point differential per game. The Patriots were first in total yards per game differential. The Seahawks were fourth. Seattle finished the season with the third most points and the eighth most yards offensively. Defensively, Seattle finished with the number one defense in points allowed and allowed the sixth most yards. Meanwhile, the Patriots were second in points for, third in yards, and defensively, fourth in points against, eighth in yards allowed. So, the Seahawks have a top 3 scoring offense and defense. In yards, they're top 10 in both. The Patriots have a top 5 scoring offense and defense. They're top 10 in yards for and allowed. When we look deeper at EPA, including the playoffs, Seattle had the 10th best offense this year. The Patriots, 4th. They finished the regular season first, by the way. They dipped down to 4th. Defensively, Seattle second on defense, New England 5th. So New England, the team with 2 top 5 units on either side of the ball. Seattle has a top 10 offense, but a top 3 defense. From week 4 on in EPA, New England's offense and defense has been top 3. Third on offense, third on defense in EPA since week 4. I use week 4 because that's when Christian Gonzalez returned to the Patriots. That includes games where Milton Williams didn't play, all that stuff. Now, Seattle was 8th offensively since week 4 and second defensively since week 4. So, looking at the tail of the tape, whether you use points, yards, point differential, wins, EPA, the only real metric that suggests that this game should not be that close is DVOA. That's the only metric that really suggests that this game should not be extremely well contested between the two most well-rounded teams in football in 2025-2026. Period. Top 3 offense, top 3 defense for the Patriots. Top 10 offense of Seattle, top 2 defense of Seattle. Now let's look at some team trends. These are the only teams in the NFL that had a top 5 offense and defense according to points this year. Neither team has lost a game by more than a touchdown all season. Less than 8. 1 score. Neither team has been blown out all year. Seattle is the number 1 DVOA team. They are number 7 of all time in that metric. New England is first in the gap between total and weighted DVOA. What that means is total for the entirety of the year, their metric. Weighted means towards the end of the year, how they've performed. So New England is therefore the hottest team in the league, while Seattle is the best, according to their metric. Mike Macdonald this year was 8-0 in rematch games. This is not a rematch, but both playoff games were rematches. 49ers, Rams. Okay? They beat both teams in the playoffs. He's 8-0 in his career in a rematch. The Seahawks are 2-0 at Levi Stadium since Mike Macdonald became the coach. They won in the final week of this regular season. They also won last season against the 49ers. The Patriots are 9-0 on the road this year. The only team ever to be 9-0 on the road in a season. The Patriots, with Milton Williams and Christian Gonzalez, aka their 2 best defensive players and 2 of their 3 best players, are 12-0 this year. The Patriots have won 16 of their last 17 games, and they have not lost a game, or only 1 game, since September. In that game, it was against the Bills. They were up 24-7 at halftime, and they lost the game. The Seahawks, meanwhile, have won 9 straight games. The last 6 weeks, though, they have only spent 1 week on a new opponent. They played San Francisco twice, LA twice, and Carolina. Carolina was the only team. So, the last 6 weeks, they've prepared for the same teams they've played in their own division, but they are 9 straight victories, including beating the Rams twice in that stretch and the Niners twice in that stretch, which is pretty impressive. Teams in white jerseys, which the Patriots are in Super Bowl, if you believe in this stuff, are 16-5 straight up in the last 21 Super Bowls. New England is actually 5-0 straight up in white jerseys this season. Those are some team trends. Super Bowl trends. Underdogs are 5-0 against the spread and 4-1 outright in the past 5 Super Bowls, including 3 straight outright wins. The underdog is 12-2-2 ATS, dating back to Super Bowl 30 with a spread of 4.5 or more and 9-1 since 2004. In the Super Bowl, teams that did not have a bye versus a team that did are 15-2 against the spread. That is 88%. This will be the 15th time in the last 26 Super Bowls that a number 1 seed in a conference faced a non-number 1. So, for example, the Patriots and the Giants would be an example of this. Just throwing that out there. In the previous 14 matchups, the better seed lost 12 out of 14 games. So the hotter team and or the lower seed going through the tougher path has always won this matchup more often than not. New England is actually the only team to win these games as the top seed. New England won in 2003, and they won in 2016. So the Patriots are the only team to buck the trend. The Seahawks are the number 1 NFC team. New England is the number 2 AFC seed, so New England would be the lower seed. Those are some Super Bowl trends that do highly suggest that taking the underdog in the Super Bowl, against the spread at least, is the way to go. ATS are most of those numbers. Straight up, the underdog has won 3 straight. The ref in this game is Sean Smith. Sean Smith's crew, okay, actually did ref the Patriots' divisional round game against the Texans. The Patriots won that game, obviously. Historically, his playoff games, they kind of shift towards underdogs. So underdogs are 5-2 ATS with Sean Smith as the ref. Sean Smith also typically throws fewer flags, so expect fewer penalties, thankfully. But a league-high 35% of those penalties result in an automatic first down. Just an interesting stat that if you see a penalty on Super Bowl Sunday, it's probably going for a first down. The Patriots were 6th in penalties. Seattle was 8th. Super Bowl experience. The Patriots are the more experienced team, featuring Carlton Davis, Mac Hollins, Austin Hooper, and Milton Williams, who played in a Super Bowl. I want to also say that there might have been a couple more players that were also special teamers. I think Christian Ellis might have been one of them, just throwing that out there. Seattle had Cooper Kupp and Ernest Jones, who played in a Super Bowl in a somewhat, big role. New England, from a coaching perspective, Mike Vrabel played in 4 Super Bowls. He has never coached in a Super Bowl, but he played and won 3, and he lost another. Josh McDaniels has coached in 9 Super Bowls. 9. As the offensive coordinator, he has been 6 times to the Super Bowl. Seattle, they do have Clint Kubiak, who is the passing game coordinator for the San Francisco 49ers in 2023 in their loss to the Chiefs. Mike McDonald, no, has not participated in a Super Bowl. Now, let's talk about competition, because that's a big narrative going into this game. Patriots have played nobody. Seattle has played juggernaut teams. Let's see if this is true. I think it's partly true, but it's partly false. So let's break it down. Guys, if you haven't already, Gronk spiked the like button. We're going through everything on this video. This is a comprehensive Super Bowl preview. Go back and listen to everything if you haven't. Okay. Seattle has faced 3 top 10 offenses this year. San Francisco 3 times, Los Angeles 3 times, and Jacksonville before they got Jacoby Myers, who was the 10th best offense in the league. So they played one offense that was top 10 outside of their own division. That's it. When you talk about quarterbacks, these are the quarterbacks that Seattle beat. Aaron Rodgers at 42 years old, Spencer Rattler, Kyler Murray, Trevor Lawrence, CJ Stroud, hurt Jaden Daniels, Cam Ward, Max Brosmer, Kirk Cousins, 44-year-old Phillip Rivers off a couch, Bryce Young, and Purdy and Stafford. 4 times. Now, when we break down that list, notice I didn't mention Baker Mayfield because they lost to Baker Mayfield. The interesting thing about this list is, on this list, who is better than Drake May? Objectively. Probably no one. Matthew Stafford, if you want to include him, being that he's a divisional opponent, you could give the nod to Matthew Stafford. Otherwise, the Seahawks did not play Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Jordan Love, Caleb Williams, Jared Goff, Dak Prescott, or Justin Herbert. So they didn't play a lot of the top 10 quarterbacks in the league. Or, Mahomes. I don't think I mentioned Mahomes. They didn't play Mahomes. So there you go. Now, in terms of defenses that Seattle has played one top 10 defense since week 8. That was Minnesota. In that game, they scored 1 touchdown. Week 13, Minnesota had 1 offensive touchdown for 219 yards. Minnesota with Max Brosmer at quarterback, turned the ball over 5 times in order to aid Seattle to a 26-0 victory, including a pick 6, I think, on 4th down. I remember it. Since their Week 8 bye, Seattle has only played 3 games against defenses in the top half of the league in success rate. So again, top 16. They have played 3 games against top 16 defenses since Week 8. And 2 of those games were against the Rams. 2 of the 3 games were against the Rams, who are a divisional foe and are not a top half defense down the stretch. They were actually 23rd down the stretch. Also, we could talk about during the regular season, Seattle won 5 games against playoff teams. New England only won 1, right? But you could say this about New England. They played 6 of the 7 AFC playoff teams this year. The only team they didn't play was Jacksonville, and they beat every other team except for the Steelers. Seattle played 1 NFC playoff team the entire year outside of their own division. They played San Francisco 3 times, the Rams 3 times, and the Panthers were the only team in the NFC. They did not play the Eagles. They did not play the Bears. They did not play the Packers. They did not play that's it, right? So that's 4 teams. But they didn't even play Detroit. They didn't even play Dallas. They didn't even play they played Tampa. They lost. So they did play 2 AFC playoff teams early in the year, and they beat both Jacksonville and Houston. So it is kind of interesting from like a competition standpoint who each team has kind of played. I would say it this way. The Seattle Seahawks have probably played an overall, if you were to just add up the wins and losses, they've definitely played more impressive wins to loss ratio of a schedule, but they have played a much more saturated schedule. They have not faced a variety of teams like New England has. And that speaks to what I said earlier about them only having to prepare for 1 new opponent over the last 6 games. Because they've played the Rams and the Niners 6 times. So that has kind of stripped away any chance to prepare for alternative teams. While New England has had to beat and play the Chargers, the Texans, right? The Broncos in Denver. They played a bunch of different teams. Buffalo. They played Pittsburgh. They played Tampa. They played Baltimore. So they played a lot of different teams, right? While Seattle has kind of played like a saturated good teams. You know what I'm saying? I would also suggest this. I made a video about the Rams, but I think a big part of the narrative about this game is that the Rams were a juggernaut football team, but they were really just a juggernaut offense. And I would say this about the Rams. The Rams should have lost to Chicago. The NFC Championship should have been Chicago and Seattle, if we actually are being honest. The Rams allowed 400 yards in that game, and the Bears had the ball at the 48-yard line of the Rams, needing 1 first down to win the game, and Caleb Williams threw a boneheaded interception in overtime. The Rams were also trailing the 8-9 Panthers with 2 minutes and 30 seconds left in the wild card round. Chicago had more first downs, more yards, and more time of possession than the Rams. And I just bring that up because the Rams were seen as this juggernaut, should have won the Super Bowl team, and the favorite to win the Super Bowl for like half the year. But they were actually just kind of overrated. They were 22nd in pass defense. They were 19th in pass or overall defensive EPA from week 13 from week 13 on. They were the 19th best defense in the league, 23rd against the pass. That's what I'm meaning to say. So they were not a good defense. They had a tragic special teams, and their offense was a juggernaut. But they should have lost to 2 teams that were highly suspect in Chicago and Carolina, or very easily could have lost. Not saying they should have, but could have. Now, to finish off this whole conversation about competition, I would just say, at this point, who really cares? These 2 teams are here, and as I've mentioned, you can only play who's on your schedule. Seattle happened to play a difficult division this year and take advantage of that and beat that division, while New England had to play a more wide variety of teams. Specifically on this stretch to the playoffs, they have played 3 top 5 defenses and defeated 3 top 5 defenses, which has literally never happened in the history of the league. So pick your poison. It's actually just wanted to put this here and point this out because it's not what the narrative and the mainstream suggests. It's not what the clowns and the trolls are saying. It's actually very similar to the same schedule, or it's just different opponents, and it's just a different way of going about beating teams, right? It is very unique, though, that New England probably was the worst team in the league last year, so they had the easiest schedule in the league. Like, really think about it. When you sit back and you think about it, New England was the worst team in football. Like, the only reason they had the 4th pick is because Joe Milton beat a Bills team in the last week of the season who was resting their entire roster, and the Bills lost on purpose. That's the only reason, because they didn't want New England to get the first pick. They literally lost the game on purpose. If New England would have lost that game, New England would have had the first pick in the draft. New England was literally the worst team in the league, and now they're in the Super Bowl. And that's why they had an easier schedule throughout the regular season. But in the playoffs, they have more than proven that they can beat pretty much anybody that they take on. Now let's start breaking down each side of the football. We're going to start with the Patriots offense and the Seattle defense. If you guys haven't already, Gronk spiked the like button. Make sure to share this link. Make sure to send it to all your friends, your foes, your hoes. Don't forget your hoes, guys. Very important. Don't forget them. I will not be live, by the way, for Super Bowl 60. I'll be hosting people at my house, but I will be recording a recap shortly after the game to discuss all my opinions, thoughts, and hopefully I am very happy about the result. But either way, I will discuss the game if the Patriots win or the Patriots lose. Okay, so New England's offense versus Seattle's defense. As mentioned, this was actually the number 1 defense through the regular season, as well as the number 1 offense in EPA this year. So this is actually a 1-versus-1 matchup in some stats. Okay, number 2 scoring offense versus the number 1 scoring defense. Put it that way. Seattle allowed the fewest yards per play this year and the fewest points per drive in the NFL. Now, what's interesting about this side of the football is that New England has been really struggling to score. They have fewer than 22 points in 3 straight playoff games, taking on elite defenses that would categorize or put themselves across from or alongside the Seattle Seahawks, which is why so many people believe that Seattle will crush New England, because on the surface, Seattle has a better offense than the Chargers, than the Jared Stidham Broncos, or the Texans, but they have a similarly tiered defense, okay? And in those games, New England has not scored more than 22 points, okay? In terms of offense. They scored 28 total against Houston, but only 21 on offense. Drake May has taken 5 sacks in each playoff game, which is pretty crazy. It's the most amount of sacks to anyone to ever make the Super Bowl, I believe, at this point. The Patriots, though, when they take that many sacks, are 7-0 in games where Drake May is sacked 4 or more times. They have literally not lost a game when Drake May takes a lot of sacks, which is kind of funny. Now, Seattle, what is their defense like? Seattle's defense is very zone-based. They are based out of 2 shell, which is a cover 2 shell, 2 safeties deep. So they are 3rd in zone rate in the NFL. Their middle field open rate, which means 2 safeties, not 1 safety, which is closed. Okay, 1 safety would mean a post safety in the middle of the field. So the middle field open rate is 5th highest in the league. So they're top 5 in zone rate, top 3 actually, and 5th highest in middle of the field open. They play a sub-package rate. I've never seen one this high. 92%. So only 8% of plays are with 3 linebackers on the field. They almost always have a sub-package on the field. And that sub-package is a big nickel formation. They have 2 linebackers with Drake Thomas and Ernest Jones. And they have a nickel that is Nick Emenworry, who is basically a safety slash linebacker slash corner, which enables Seattle in their mind, Mike McDonald's mind, and he's been proven accurate and correct. With Nick Emenworry, the Seahawks are able to play a nickel package while also basically playing a 4-3 defense, because Nick Emenworry is essentially a linebacker, but he's also a corner. So he is a cheat code, essentially. Okay? Seattle also has the 4th highest light box rate, which means they do not put extra defenders into the box to stop the run. Seattle, though, still is the best against the run, despite playing too high, sub-package defense, right? And light boxes. So you can play sub-package defense, but have heavy boxes. Like, Seattle used to play a lot of nickel, but Cam Chancellor would always be in the box because they're always playing cover 3. So they would be good against the run and the pass, right? But this Seattle defense still stops the run while maintaining a too high structure because of their defensive line. They allowed the lowest success rate in the NFL this year at 36% from this defense, okay? Now, what also do they do extremely well? They are first in the NFL in wide receiver rating allowed. So they do not allow a lot of production to wide receivers, specifically perimeter wide receivers. You can get them in the middle of the field a little bit, but perimeter wide receivers. Now, when I broke down those stats, there is a defense that they remind me of. And that defense is the Chargers. They actually are extremely similar to the Chargers defensively. If you were to look at all the metrics, Seattle and Los Angeles pretty much play the exact same defense. They play the exact same defense. So, looking at the numbers here, if I can find them, essentially, they're both right up there in light box rate, zone rate, every number, cover, like the too high, they're all the same. I've brought these numbers up in previous videos. I can't seem to find them. If I can find them, I'll let you know. I don't see them on my stats here. I have so many. Okay, here it is. I got it. All right, Seattle's 3rd highest zone rate. The Chargers were 2nd. Seattle was 5th in middle of the field open rate. Chargers were 2nd. Man rate, Seattle is 6th lowest in the league. The Chargers were 2nd lowest. Seattle was 9th in no blitz pressure rate. The Chargers were 14th. The Chargers were 3rd in light box rate. The Seahawks were 4th. The Chargers were 4th in lowest blitz rate. Seattle is 8th. They're essentially the same defense. I don't think there is a defense that has this closely aligned philosophy in the entire NFL. If I were to compare every single stat, I don't think there is a comparison that is this close in terms of the structure. Now, the differences, I would argue, are this. Seattle is stronger in the interior defensive line. I think Seattle is stronger against the run. I think Los Angeles has better middle of the field coverage. I think Seattle has better perimeter coverage. But I would argue that Los Angeles has better edge rushers. So they're both excellent defenses. Seattle's was better, statistically speaking, because I think they're so dominant against the run. But both are very good against the pass. Now, one interesting matchup to watch is Stephon Diggs. Diggs has been really good in primetime games this year. He's been really good in big games, and he always seemingly makes a big play in the big moment. A 3rd down conversion against Houston, a touchdown against Houston. You know, you think back to that first primetime game against the Bills, the primetime game against the Ravens. Stephon Diggs typically comes up big when the Patriots need it the most, and I expect him to play a lot in the middle of the field. They're going to move him around. I do wonder how much Seattle tries to track Diggs with Witherspoon, because that feels like the corner that could best match Stephon Diggs if Seattle wants to shadow him in some way. But every team, Denver, Houston, and also the Chargers, have been successful taking Diggs out of the game in one way or another, and almost every defense down the stretch has tried to double team Stephon Diggs in some way, shape, or form by getting bodies around him in zone coverage or by getting their best corner on him. I would say this about Seattle. I don't think their corners are as good as Houston's. I don't think their corners are as good as Denver's. That's one thing I could say about New England, that maybe they're going to have more success. I think they're good, but I think they're a lot closer to the Chargers than they are to the Denver Broncos or something like that. And Jordan says the Chargers-Seattle breakdown just exemplifies why Minter is perfect for the Ravens. They basically got Mike McDonald anyway. And this also comes from, they were both at Michigan, I believe, and they were both actually in Baltimore at the same time at some point. So, yeah, like Minter, they're both from the Ravens, essentially. So, yeah, they do have the same philosophy. I think a way to attack Seattle, it's kind of interesting because I think you can do it in a variety of ways if you're New England. I think a key for Drake May could be quick passes, attacking the middle of the field with quick, decisive decisions. I even heard Tom Brady say, you have to be willing to take 5-yard passes and complete 6-yard passes, throw to the running back and throw to the tight end over the middle of the field. Interesting thing about the tight end is that Seattle has been weak against tight ends all year. They're 16th in DVOA against tight ends, and they allow the 18th highest passer rating. Hunter Henry did lead the Patriots in touchdowns with 8. And also in the playoffs, they've allowed 134 yards, including a pretty good game to Jake Tonjes, and then also a pretty good game to Parkinson the week following. And these are not exactly Rob Gronkowski in his prime, right? So I do think there is an area for Hunter Henry and maybe even Austin Hooper to succeed. Seattle also allowed a lot of receptions to running backs, but not a lot of yards on those receptions. So a way to manage early downs for New England could be by getting the ball to tight ends and running backs to keep third downs manageable for them, or by just finding a way to have a decent running game as well. That could also help them stay out of really bad situations where their offensive line is having to block for too long, for against Seattle. But the other way that you can attack them is vertically, right? Like, we've seen the Rams vertically attack Seattle down the field. Like, get after them, throw the ball down the field. They are really the only team, them and the Bucs, that have been able to do this. Part of the Bucs game, though, was injuries for Seattle. I would mention that. But I do look at these corners, whether it be Josh Jobe, who I think you can get, Reek Woolen, who's susceptible to double moves. I think back to one by Ricky Pearsall in the first game of the year. I think back to last week against Puka Nacua. Now, New England does not have a Puka Nacua, but Kayshon Boutte is a great deep threat. Matt Collins is a pretty good deep threat with good speed and size, and Kyle Williams can really go. So if they want to test these guys, and maybe they could do this by setting up a strong early running game and then featuring play action off of it, which is often what Los Angeles has done in these games against the Seahawks, is a lot of play action from under center in heavy formations by kind of like testing the Seahawks, just kind of getting marginal gains in the run to set up explosive concepts down the field. Now, again, New England does not have the receivers that the Rams have, but they do have a quarterback that can throw the deep ball. The best deep ball passer in football this year. His name is Drake May. So very possible that Drake May could take advantage of something that a Brock Purdy couldn't, which is throwing the ball down the field, right? Also, one question for me is how much man coverage will Seattle play? Because I'm actually scared of teams playing man coverage against the Patriots. I think it's the way that you play the Patriots. I know that a lot of times May has had some good numbers against man coverage, but in my personal opinion, New England's weakness offensively is their ability to separate. And I think Denver and Houston specifically has taken advantage of this because of their stellar cornerback play. Derek Stingley, Jalen Petrie, Kamari Lassiter, Pat Surtain, Riley Moss, even McMillan. Even the safeties of both teams are very good in coverage. Seattle, though, because they are a top 3 zone team, they're not used to playing man. And I would also argue they're not that good at it. I would argue they're not nearly as good as those teams I mentioned. They are an exquisite zone match team, though, and they will feature a lot of cover 6, which is a coverage that's going along Twitter, seemingly giving Drake May some issues. Now, cover 6, if you guys want to know what it is, it's essentially cover 2 to one side and cover 4 to the other. Cover 4 quarters to one side, cover 2 to the other. But it's matching zone. So essentially, you have your assignment, and if he comes into your zone, you match him in man coverage. That's kind of how it works. right? A corner reads the first corner on the outside, reads the receiver across from him. Then you have the second guy. Then you have the third guy. It's kind of how it works. But cover 2 to one side, cover 4 to the other. This is something that if you want to look deeper into that, I don't have the numbers, but that is a coverage that Drake May has struggled with. To throw that out there, that might be something that Seattle plays at a high rate, which they do play more than most teams. I would throw that out there because Baltimore does that as well. Again, another Baltimore thing. Now, in terms of pressure, okay, Seattle has a good pass rush. I don't know where it belongs in the opponents that New England has played. If I made an argument, I'd probably say they're third in my opinion from like a pass rushing perspective. I would say Houston has the best pass rush. I would say Denver has the second best. Denver had the most sacks in football. And then I would say Seattle is third, ahead of the Chargers. That's what I would personally say. Now, the Patriots, they have been disrupted by 4-man rush in these playoffs. A lot of teams have not blitzed them because Drake May is really good against the blitz. But also, like, New England is not very good at defending against 4-man rush. Like, they're 29th in pass block efficiency against a 4-man rush. That's like bottom 4 in the league, right? And Seattle's no blitz rate was 9th in the league. Now, comparing that to Houston and Denver, Houston was 4th, Denver was 3rd, just to throw that out there. That's according to Sharp Football, Warren Sharp's website. Now, New England's biggest weakness on the offensive line is Will Campbell. The interesting thing about Will Campbell at left tackle, the rookie 4th overall pick, is that he had an MCL injury. Previous to the MCL injury, he was actually pretty good. And there wasn't many games where he played poorly. I would say the Pittsburgh game is an example. He didn't play the best. But not many games where he was bad. I would say that. He's had 2 weeks to rest off of this MCL injury. And he's coming off an AFC championship where he didn't allow a sack against Nick Bonito, who is one of the best edge rushers in the league. So he is trending in the right direction if you're a Patriots fan and you want optimism. But against Houston, he was downright dreadful. He was one of the worst players I've seen in a single game this year. And against the Chargers, he was also atrocious. Odafe Owe, I think, had 2 or 3 sacks. So Will Campbell could be healthier in this game. That might help him move. That might help him block. Who knows? But he might also stink. So it's definitely an X factor. Lining up across from him, I think, will largely be DeMarcus Lawrence. DeMarcus Lawrence, the former Dallas Cowboy. He is not Nick Bonito. He is not Will Anderson. He's probably more Odafe Owe. Owe is probably quicker and twitchier, while Lawrence is probably bigger. Now, the thing is, Campbell, because he has smaller arms, he does struggle more with length and power rather than quickness, I would say. Lawrence has a sack in both playoff games. He had a sack against San Francisco, a sack against LA. He has 3 forced fumbles as well. So he is playing really, really well, but he is more kind of known to be a run defender over the course of his career than a pure pass rusher. He's certainly not Will Anderson. I would say that. But he is good. Now, the bigger concern for me on New England might be Jared Wilson in this game, just because Jared Wilson is definitely going to get a lot of Leonard Williams and a lot of Byron Murphy. And those are the best pass rushers on Seattle. Those are 2 of the best defensive tackles in the NFL. It's the cheat code combo that they have inside that allows them to be so good against the run, but then also destructive as pass rushers. Okay? And I expect a lot of stunts, a lot of games, a lot of simulated pressures from on that left side by Mike McDonald. And I would expect New England to largely lose that matchup in strict drop back pass situations. But I think that if New England can lean into heavier formations, lean into running the ball, play action, and then just getting the ball out fast, I think they can largely avoid having this be a problem. With 2 weeks to prepare, I do trust Josh McDaniels to be able to get the most out of this offensive line, being that he's been in this Super Bowl situation before against other great pass rushes. But it is something that's concerning and certainly a matchup advantage for Seattle. In the run and the pass game, Seattle is much better at the line of scrimmage on their defensive side than New England's offense. Now, the strength of New England's offensive line is the right side. I'd expect them, especially if DeMarcus Lawrence is across from Will Campbell, I'd expect them to run a lot to the right because that's where Nwosu will be or Mafe will be. And those guys are not as good against the run as DeMarcus Lawrence. Morgan Moses and Onwenu can really run block, and they're very powerful. I would just argue that New England's center to right side is pretty good. Onwenu is probably the best offensive lineman in this game. Morgan Moses is good, and Garrett Bradbury has been pretty good as well. He can be had sometimes, but he's not worse than the average center, I would argue, this year for New England. It's been a good year for him. But the left side of the line, the rookie side of the line, is very concerning. New England knows that. New England's going to try to protect that, but Seattle is also going to attack it in relentless fashion. Okay? Now, the run game. Seattle has allowed the lowest success rate and the lowest yards per carry to running backs this year. They're most susceptible on the inside against runs. Inside zone, I believe, and draws have had success against the Seattle Seahawks defense. New England will test them with a 6 offensive lineman formation. Munford, who's one of their backup tackles, is going to get out there, and he's probably going to line up to the right. And I wouldn't be surprised if New England ran to the right a lot behind Munford, Moses, and Onwenu, because that is somewhere where they can have success, and maybe they set up some play action pass off of that. Ramondre Stevenson has been arguably the best running back in the entire playoffs. He's led the NFL in rushing in the playoffs, and he's been the engine of the offense. Despite not a high yards per carry, he has been an absolute demon, in the run and the pass game. He has been really, really good. Can Henderson be an X factor? Because the thing about Travion Henderson is he's one of the most explosive players in the entire NFL. And if he can hit 1 or 2 big runs in this game, that could make all the difference in a game that largely does appear to be lower scoring. And we're going to get to why that is when we talk about the Patriots defense against Seattle's offense. But when we're talking about this matchup, it's pretty clear that a lot is going to rely on the Patriots to protect Drake May, the Patriots' ability to have solid, it's not going to be stellar, but solid enough run game. And then a lot of it is going to come down to Drake May. I mean, just Drake May in general, right? Like Drake May and the passing game of the Patriots. So when we talk about Drake May, Seattle, there are a couple areas that Drake May is really good, and we talked about one of them, explosive passes. Seattle is 13th against the explosive play downfield this year. So 13th isn't great for the number 1 defense. Like, you would expect them to be higher. Drake May has completed 52.1% of his deep attempts this year, which was first in the league, right? The second highest EPA since 2016 in the next-gen era. This season, New England was also first in explosive pass play rate. They were first in EPA per pass on attempts of 20 yards or more. So they're very good at throwing the ball deep. A lot of their offense has centered around throwing the ball deep. And when you look back at Houston, right? Houston dominated the Patriots. Like, Houston's defense completely shut down New England, except for 3 touchdowns they scored. And honestly, guys, 3 touchdowns might be enough to win this game if New England's defense keeps playing the way they're playing. So can Drake May capitalize on just a couple big plays, have a couple drives where they're really successful against the Seattle defense? It's not out of the realm of possibility that Houston, and Seattle, they both dominate New England for large portions of this game on defense. But if New England can find ways to get 3 or 4 touchdown drives, that's all it's going to take to win this game, most likely. Drake May's legs are also a pretty big factor, in my opinion. Seattle's defense ranks 16th in EPA to scrambles this year. Drake May put up 65 rushing yards against the Chargers and the Broncos. And Seattle's given up some big plays to scrambles despite playing a lot of zone coverage. Baker Mayfield did shred them and beat Seattle in Seattle, and he was first in EPA per play with scrambles. Drake May was second. Throwing that out there. Okay? Drake May, also just to remind you how good he was this year, he was first in the NFL in yards per attempt against man and zone. Against zone, he completed 75% of his passes. And again, when I talked about the defense that Drake May played that most reminds us of Seattle, the Chargers. Against the Chargers, Drake May had the second most yards against the Chargers passing of any quarterback in the league. Only Daniel Jones early in the year had more. And he also had 65 rushing yards. So, unlike Denver and Houston, May might have more success against the Seahawks than those teams, not only because of the snow, but also because of the structure and type of defense. Drake May is better against zone, 9.1 yards per attempt to 8.3, and he completes 75% of his passes against zone coverage. Right? He led the NFL in completion percentage, yards per attempt, and passer rating against zone coverage. He also led the NFL in EPA in traditional drop back passing, not play action. Okay? So, that is that side of the ball. One other thing. I got one other thing on this side of the ball. I got one other thing because I just found this today. I was thinking about it. I've been thinking about it for a long time. And my question has been, okay, like, what is like Drake May's biggest weakness? And to me, it's weather. Like, when I look back at every single bad game of Drake May this year, it's been in snow or rain. The Vegas loss in week 1, which everyone points out. The Bills loss in week 15. The Texans game. The Broncos game. And the Tampa game, which was partial rain. Buffalo also partial rain, partial snow. Right? And New England against Buffalo in that second game just ran the ball at will. So, when New England had to throw, it was snowing. These are the numbers for Drake May. Not the cold, the rain and the snow. The cold does not matter. The rain and the snow. 6 touchdowns, 4 interceptions in these games. So this is 5 games, guys. Only 6 touchdowns in 5 games. 195 yards per game. 58% completion percentage. 1 game with a 100 passer rating. That's it, out of 5. 4 below 90. 3 below 60% completion. Sacked 18 times in 5 games. Fumbled 5 times. So in the weather games, which included, by the way, 3 top 10 yardage defenses. Buffalo, Houston, Denver. Tampa and Vegas were not. But it's also a tough sample size. That being said, all of these games, Drake May, his worst games of the year, were all in bad weather. Every single one. Every single one. In every other game this year, Drake May was really good. He was really good. I tweeted it out. I tweeted out the numbers. And this is what I'm kind of saying is, like, what if Drake May isn't regressing? He just sucks in bad weather. What if that's a possibility? So in the games where he didn't play in bad weather, Drake May had a 74% completion percentage compared to 58. He had 263 yards per game to 195. And he had 29 touchdowns compared to 6. And only 6 interceptions in the rest of the season compared to 4 in 5 games. So it's a drastic split. And when we look at San Francisco's weather report, it's going to be not warm, not cold, somewhere in the middle, and 0% precipitation. So what if Drake May is just really good when the weather isn't really bad? Question. Throwing that out there. All right, let's flip to the other side of the football. We got the Patriots defense versus the Seattle offense. My first stat here, and guys, if you haven't already, Gronk, spike the like button. It helps other football fans just like you and I, other jabronis, find this channel, so make sure to like the video and subscribe. The Patriots are 12-0 when Milton Williams and Christian Gonzalez play. In those games, they allow an average of 14.5 points per game. So we talked about how Seattle is the number 1 defense in the league. But when Milton Williams and Christian Gonzalez play, they allow less points than the Seahawks. That would rank New England as the lowest scoring defense in the NFL. Period. Right? Now, in the games with Christian Gonzalez and Milton Williams, they have not allowed more than 23 points. There has not been a single game this year where New England has allowed 24 points when their two best defensive players play. It's a sample size of the entire playoffs and 9 regular season games. Just overall, New England has only allowed 25 points twice. And one was to Josh Allen. And in that game, they didn't have Milton Williams, Robert Spillane. Okay? Now, New England also, with Gonzalez and Milton Williams, have not allowed a 270-yard passer all year. New England actually has held passers under 195 yards in every game, 10 straight games. No one has passed for 200 yards on the Patriots. No one. Okay? And they haven't allowed a 60-yard rusher with Milton Williams on the field. They haven't allowed a 60-yard rusher all year. They've only allowed one 50-yard rusher, and it was 53 yards. That's it. Now, to me, this side of the football, now that we understand the Patriots defense, is extremely underrated. Winning on early downs is what the game will come down to on this side of the ball. And in my opinion, this side of the ball is kind of what dictates the game. If New England can play as well as they have in the last 3 games in the playoffs, and they can force Sam Darnold to play like a pumpkin, they will win the game. Period. If Seattle can have success and protect the football, they will win the game. Period. Okay? Winning early downs. Seattle is the most run-heavy team on early downs in the first half of games this year. Seattle also plays over half of its snaps under center, which means they want to run the ball, they want to play action the ball, and that's their offense. It is a Kubiak-Shanahan offense. That's what it is. In the playoffs, the Patriots defense has allowed a 32% rushing success rate. Remember, Seattle led the NFL in rush success rate at 36%. New England in the playoffs is at 32%. They are allowing under 3 yards per carry to running backs in the playoffs, 2.4 yards per carry. And overall, they ranked 3rd in the NFL this year, just across the entire time. Also, New England has been better on first down against the pass than Seattle defensively since week 10. So New England has been destroying the run and defending the pass really well since week 10. Can New England stop the run, stop Kenneth Walker, and force Sam Darnold into drop back passing situations? This side of the ball comes down to, can Seattle find a way to move the ball on first down? They probably won't be able to run it, as I've kind of suggested. Can they throw the ball on early downs? Well, New England has been very good in that regard lately, but that's probably the most successful way they'll be able to do it. We'll talk about play action here. So, Sam Darnold, really good on play action. As an offense, Seattle is number 1 in EPA on play action this year. Sam Darnold is the 2nd highest graded quarterback on play action with 15 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. And the one stat that really shines is big time throws to turnover-worthy plays, 16-4. He doesn't make mistakes when he has play action, and he's 11th in yards. He puts up 11 yards per attempt off play action, 11. In drop back pass, he's 23rd in grade compared to 2nd. So he goes from an elite quarterback to a below average quarterback, depending on the way he's throwing the ball. 23rd in grade with no play action, 18 big time throws, 16 turnover worthy plays compared to play action 16-4, right? 16th in passer rating on no play action, 14 touchdowns to 9 picks that only ranked 21st in touchdowns, 7.5 yards per attempt compared to 11, okay? And then he was 9th in yards on non-play action plays. So essentially, can you stop the run? And can you therefore puts Seattle in a predictable passing predicament where they cannot fake the ball to the running back. So 2nd and long and 3rd and long. That's essentially what I'm saying. The other thing about this is New England is the best defense in football this year against play action. They are number 1 in the league against play action. And in 3rd and long situations, 3rd and 7 plus, Seattle is 31st in conversion rate. New England is 1st in defense on 3rd and 7 plus. So that's what the game comes down to on this side of the ball. Can New England stop the run? And can New England stop early down passes? Because if New England gets to 2nd and 3rd and long, they will dominate Seattle's offense. I would make that statement and I would feel confident about it based on the stats, based on the analytics, and based on the matchups. And we'll get to pressure here in a second. On late downs with 6 or more yards to go, Darnold ranks 26th in EPA. The big question is, how will New England try to stop JSN? Because the one guy that they'll look for on those 3rd downs is JSN, of course. Now, my question will be, how much man coverage does New England play? I would kind of like to see them test Seattle's receivers because I don't respect them that much. I think that they should play man. And if they do play man, can Rashid Shaheed have an impact? Can Cooper Kupp make a play? Can Barner or Kenneth Walker find his way open? Because Sam Darnold's numbers have been really good against man this year, but primarily because of JSN. Their other receivers are not great separators. Cooper Kupp, Rashid Shaheed. Rashid's fast, but he's not a well-rounded receiver and he's not often targeted. New England has played man at a 34% rate in the playoffs. Jones, Davis, and Gonzalez all 34% or above, which is a high rate. Gonzalez himself has allowed an 8.3 passer rating in man coverage in the playoffs. 8.3, which is insane. I could see New England playing man coverage on big downs and blitzing. I could also see them playing a lot of cover 1, where they have potentially JSN in the slot with Marcus Jones covering him, and then a safety for help or a linebacker for help, and then Marcus Jones playing with leverage, rather playing with probably outside leverage if he's playing cover 1, and then having a safety to the inside, like a robber, to come down and take away those middle of the field concepts. So I could see them playing a lot of cover 1, having Gonzalez covering Rashid Shaheed, and then also having Carlton Davis cover Cooper Kupp. Because I think the most underrated part about the Patriots is how their back end complements their front on their defense. Their back end is so good at corner that they can blitz, they can stuff the run if they want to and stack the box, and they can play man, they can play zone, and they can get away with playing man because they have such great corners. Now, a lot of teams have played a lot of zone against the Seahawks, maybe because they don't have the corners, like San Francisco or LA. Maybe because Sam has struggled more statistically. But I expect, if New England does play man and Cobra says Gonzo should be on JSN, I don't think he will be if he's in the slot. I think that in the slot, it will be Marcus Jones with help. And I think if he's out wide, it will be Gonzalez. But I think that a lot of the time he might be in the slot. They also put him in the backfield. And I want to see how New England responds to the backfield assignment. Maybe they have a check for that, a certain coverage they want to go to or something. That will be interesting to watch because he was featured in the backfield in a split back formation against the Rams quite a bit, including scoring a touchdown. X factors on this side of the ball offensively for Seattle, I would say, is Walker as a receiver. He's not a great route runner, but he is explosive. On checkdowns, can he make something happen? Tight end explosives. I think New England gives up a lot of these short, dinky routes to tight ends, but can you create those Dalton Kincaid crossing routes? That's a big factor. Can Barner or Arroyo make a 20-yard gain, 15-yard gain from under center on play action? Right? That's the type of tight end explosive I'm talking about. Rashid Shaheed getting vertical a couple times in this game Can he burn by somebody for a big play? Cooper Kupp on third down and drive starter. Like, can, Cooper Kupp early, like when New England goes to zone on first down, let's say, can Cooper Kupp pick up 5-6 yards on first down? Or on third down, can he beat Carlton Davis or Marcus Jones for a first down when New England is double teaming JSN? So those are some kind of X factors there. Now, from a pressure perspective, the most interesting thing about this side is how much New England has changed in terms of what they do and how they pressure. So New England's blitz rate in the regular season was 27.6%. It's now 40%. That would be the second highest in the NFL, only behind the insane Brian Flores at 48%. Darnold ranked 23rd against the blitz this year. And New England has been pressuring quarterbacks at a historic rate in the playoffs. They have the 5th most pressures to this point in the playoffs since 2009. New England has 12 sacks, 27 quarterback hits in the playoffs so far, according to ESPN. Now, the interesting thing about that blitz rate is that I talked about the Vikings game. The Vikings are the only top 10 defense that Seattle has played since week 8. And the Vikings only allowed 1 touchdown to Seattle. And Sam Darnold had a horrible game. He had a 53.8% completion percentage, which was the lowest of his season. He had 128 yards. He was sacked 4 times. This was his former team basically explicitly saying, this is how you play this quarterback. We have seen him in practice. We know how to play him. We're going to blitz the shit out of him. Does New England do the same thing? Or do they play a variety? I would assume they play a variety. I don't think they're going to blitz at a 60% rate, which is what the Vikings did against Sam Darnold. But they might. Who knows? New England has pulled crazy shit out of their ass before, but I don't know if Mike Vrabel will quite go full Brian Flores. That being said, expect a lot of blitzes on big plays in this game because I assume New England believes their corners can cover the Seahawks receivers, and they will try to get the right matchup on JSN when they can. But even against the Rams, Darnold was sacked twice on 9 blitzes. The Rams did not blitz enough. They only blitzed 9 times, and Darnold was sacked twice. And he was 4 for 7 for 47 yards and a touchdown. Regardless, in other areas, in terms of pressure, Seattle ranks 20th in air yards per attempt, or net yards per attempt, I should say, when opposing defenses stunt, but they're 3rd when they don't. So they're really good when it's clean and it's a straight 4-man rush. When there's havoc, when there's stunts, when there's blitzes, it's not as good. New England stunts at the 5th highest rate. Something to think about. On snaps when Darnold is pressured, he is 28th in the NFL against pressure. New England has 3 of the 5 top pressure players in the playoffs. Caleb Chason, who's 2nd in edge pressures, Milton Williams, who's 1st in defensive tackle pressures, and Christian Barmore. 2 out of the top 3 pressure percentage players at defensive tackle for the entire year, Barmore and Milton Williams, right? Those 2 guys were only behind Jeffrey Simmons in pressure percentage at defensive tackle. The 2nd highest graded pass rusher this year at defensive tackle was not Milton Williams, not Christian Barmore. It was Durden. Corey Durden, who's also 1st in the playoffs in pass rush win rate. So, that being said, New England has 3 elite interior pass rushers. They blitz a lot, and they blitz really well. They stunt a lot. All of these things are bad for Sam Darnold. Bradford and Sundell are the interior duo that you have to attack if you're the Patriots. Now, Zabel's also a rookie, but Sundell and Bradford are the 2 guys that you have to attack. And Bradford is really bad. Like, he's as bad as a Super Bowl starter gets, in my opinion. Both of these guys at center and right guard have allowed bottom 8 in quick pressures to their positions. So bottom 8 at center and right guard in the league. Expect New England to attack these guys just as Seattle will attack the left side of the Patriots offensive line. Now, an interesting thing to me will be the usage of like defensive line deployments on third down, like an overload to the right. Like when you think about it, the left side of the Seahawks line is really good, but the right side of the line is kind of not that good. Like the center, the right guard are both not very good, as we brought up. And then Abraham Lucas is good, but he's not as good as Charles Cross. So could they like try to have like a three defensive linemen to this side, and that classic Rams package, and then one defensive lineman to the left? And like try to attack the right side, like overloading the right side, especially considering that Sam Darnold's not a mobile quarterback and the right side's also his strong side. So I do wonder about things like that where they could get some isolations and some one-on-ones on that right side and kind of just like say, like, we're not even going to try against Charles Cross, like just let him go and we'll just attack these three guys. You know what I'm saying? I could see something like that. Also, Terrell Williams is back for the Patriots in their building, working with them. Terrell Williams was supposed to be the defensive coordinator for New England, and he came from Detroit. And that's interesting to me because he has experience playing Sam Darnold in Detroit, especially that last regular season game. So I do wonder if there's something there from a game plan perspective. Terrell Williams could give an edge to New England based on what they did in Detroit last year. And then Kenneth Walker as a pass blocker is also a weakness for Seattle. He's not Zach Charbonnet. He's not as good blocking. So I basically, to sum this all up, I think that Seattle will struggle to block the Patriots due to their plethora of ways to get pressure. 4-man rush, stunts, and blitzes. New England can play man or zone, but most importantly, New England can stop the run. And Seattle is an offense that wants to run the ball to set up play action. They want to run the ball to set up the pass. And they want to be able to run the ball so that they stay out of 3rd and long. Seattle has not played good defenses. They've only played one since week 8. One in the top half of the league since week 8. So, New England is, to me, a big favorite on this side of the ball. They should be able to get pressure on Sam, get sacks, get turnovers, and get stops. And I do think they're going to stop Kenneth Walker. On the other side of the ball, I definitely lean towards Seattle's defense because they are elite against the run, maintaining good coverage responsibility, and because New England does not have elite weaponry that the Rams have, and they do have questions on the offensive line where Seattle with Mike McDonald will be able to attack them. That being said, based on the tendencies of Seattle's defense, I do think that Drake May, who is the better quarterback in all situations in this game, has a better chance of attacking Seattle's defense in the passing game than Sam Darnold does the Patriots defense, based on tendencies and based on analytics and stats that suggest the success of these teams on each situation. Okay? So, basically, kind of what I'm saying here is this game comes down to which quarterback plays better throwing the football. And if you're going to ask me that question, I think it's Drake May. I think it's Drake May in perfect conditions. It's not raining. It's not snowing. Both defenses are going to stop the run. Both defenses are going to get pressure. One quarterback can run. One quarterback can't. One quarterback is the most accurate in the league and was number 1 against pressure this year. The other quarterback is susceptible to the blitz. And when he is blitzed, he makes mistakes. And just take this stat, the difference between Drake May and Sam Darnold. New England on 3rd and 10 or more converted at a 38% clip. 38%. That's nearly 4 out of 10 times New England converts on 3rd and 10. Seattle, 18%. That's a 20% difference. That's Drake May versus Sam Darnold. And then at the same time, New England is also second on offense and on defense on 4th down. So if the game comes down to a big 4th down, they also have proven to be very good there. Special teams wise, I think Seattle has a small edge. I think they are a better punting team. A better punting team. I think the kicking is rather even, maybe a slight lean towards Seattle. Returning wise, I think it's kind of even as well. Marcus Jones and Rashid Shaheed are both excellent. New England's kick coverage is a little bit more spotty And they have been had a couple times. So there's a small special teams edge towards Seattle. But I don't think it will really impact the game very much because I think both teams are very buttoned up on that side. And usually when that's the case, it's pretty even. Could Marcus Jones or Rashid Shaheed return a kick? It's possible, but probably not, right? And when we talk about the formula for New England to win this game, they have everything it takes for an underdog to win. They have elite run defense. They have elite interior pressure. They have an elite quarterback. They have elite coaching. And that's a formula. Seattle is favored to win this game. They very well could and should win this game based on things like DVOA. But DVOA doesn't play football games. I think the Patriots win. And I'm going with the Patriots to win this game by the same score that Tom Brady won his first Super Bowl. I think this is a low-scoring game. I think this is a defensive game. And I think it comes down to the wire with a kick by Borregales. And I think New England wins 20-17 over Seattle in a defensive game. That's my prediction. That's my preview. That's my pick for Super Bowl 60. Injury-wise, to finish it up, Robert Spillane is the only real question for the Patriots. Will he play, won't he play? He said to the media he is going to play. Ian Rappaport did tweet an hour ago that Nick Emenwari is limited in practice after suffering an ankle injury. So that was correct by whoever put that in the chat. Shout out to you. That would be huge. Huge. Like absolutely humongous if he is out of this game. But we'll see. I don't think it's anything crazy. He should be able to play. But I mean, if he doesn't play, that is massive. But we'll see what happens there. Okay. Drake May is fine. I don't think Drake May will be, be hindered by the shoulder whatsoever. Anne Marie has got Patriots 28, Seahawks 22. Guys, if you haven't put your prediction in the chat, put the prediction in the chat so I can read it. Bill has got Pats 31-17. Harold Landry is also questionable, although Harold Landry has not been very involved in the playoff run for the Patriots, so I'm not sure how much of a boost he would be. It would be nice to have him. I would assume he plays probably in a rotation role, maybe just on third downs. Big Al says 24-20 New England. New England wins, covers 5. Drake May is Super Bowl MVP. Yeah, I guess I got to give a MVP. I think I'm between May and Stevenson, and I think more often than not, this game is simulated. If New England wins, Drake May wins MVP. I think it just makes sense, especially if he doesn't win regular season MVP. I think he'll probably win the MVP in this game. Unless like Milton Williams has like 3 sacks. I mean, maybe. Or like Gonzo has 2 picks or something crazy and shuts down JSN. Maybe that's possible, but I don't see it. In terms of Seattle, I think if they have an MVP, I wouldn't be shocked if it was a defensive player, just because of how good their defense has been, like Devin Witherspoon or somebody, or Leonard Williams. But then offensively, I think it's got to be Sam Darnold. Like, it has to be Sam Darnold. It could be JSN, but I just don't see it. I think it's got to be Sam Darnold in like people saying, Sam Darnold delivered in the clutch. I think that's kind of what the narrative would be if Seattle wins. I think it will be Sam Darnold, probably. Alphon, I believe, says Pats 23-20. Connor says, hi, what's up? Meeps got 69-67 for the Pats. Singh's got Pats 24-21. Wow, we got a lot of Pats. I guess we got a lot of Pats fans in here. Patriots 35, Seahawks 31. Wow, high-scoring game. I don't expect it to be that high-scoring, but that would be cool. All right. Thank you guys for watching, man. Don't forget to Gronk Spike the like button and subscribe. I will have more Super Bowl content on Money Mitch and here on the BLV. Still a couple more videos to put out. And like I said, I will have a recap on Sunday talking about the game. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you for a great season of previews and picks. And thank you for all your love. Appreciate it, guys. We've had a lot of haters lately, man. So I appreciate all the love. Peace.